Yeah, so welcome back to this session called Mindfulness. Anyone, just to hazard a guess why this is sitting in a program around hybrid work? Where does this fit in?
It's a mystery.
Well, you said it's the EQE, emotional agility, is a leader that is a more mindful, uses their emotions more mindfully.
They do, and I did highlight one of the competencies of a emotionally intelligent leader, an emotionally intelligent human being, is their ability to manage stress management.
Yeah,
Huge.
Pause. I use mindfulness as the pause.
Oh, good. You do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So could you give me a definition, your understanding of mindfulness? It's one of those words that's out there in the community now. And what is mindfulness?
I actually use it as a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Self-reflection?
So when you talk about the CBT model, with the event in the story, that pause, that growth bit's there. Sometimes, when we aren't resetting between meetings, we're not doing that commute. It's important to pause and actually do a bit of self-reflection, and at that point identify any triggers for myself as well and what I can do to then reset, whether it's a little bit of meditation, whether it's actually just taking that 5 minutes out to change my environment.
Yep.
It depends on what the situation is, but that's what I use it for, and in that setting.
Thank you. Fantastic. And that's some really interesting stuff there. So you gave us a definition of what mindfulness and some strategies. Yep. So what I've just heard in the same sentence, mindfulness and meditation. Okay. They go hand in hand, take a break, reframe. Yep.
The word mindfulness, even though people talk about emotional intelligence, but it, to me, probably manage your mental health, and by way of meditation, by different methodologies to manage that mental health. Yeah,
and thank you. So that fits in perfectly with what we've been talking about here today, the hybrid nature of work, a real a rock that we have to be aware of that we don't land on is burnout. And we've spoken about that, yep, that there is no line in the sand, no separation between work and personal life. There is no pause button. And I think we've all known, we've all done it ourselves, and we're watching others go down the gurgler literally with this massive workload that's coming through the interweb, and they have no ability to control that. Yeah, just one more mindfulness.
My thought was that mindfulness is when you almost silence your mind and you just notice the smells, the sounds, the floor under your feet, the sand amongst your toes, and you give the mind a break. You're just absolutely present in that moment, not meditating, not thinking about it, just experience the moment now.
Beautiful. And that is what it is about. It's be here now, be present, be completely in the moment. And we do associate mindfulness with, we'll just have a look at what it is and some simple, I want to make this experiential, so we'll have a little crack at a few things in a moment. But we do associate it with there can be a spiritual side or almost religious. I mean, Buddhism 2,500 years ago was actually talking about, the Sanskrit translation is mindfulness, yeah? But what we're talking about here now, the mindfulness that is being taught at Harvard Business School, at Stanford, at UWA, the mindfulness is a secular approach to something that's sitting over there, yep, that sort of model. But it's quite mainstream now. And when we talk about mindfulness, but I said some people, associate it with yurts and sitting in under crystal pyramids, and there's a lot of incense and music. But this is a really secular approach, but it is a real strategy for health and well-being. Yep, and we've flagged a few, as I said today, this burnout possibility with the hybrid work. Certainly, a lack of emotional intelligence is a lack of stress management, which will again end up in tears. Eckhart Tolle, is anyone familiar with this author? Yes. You've read his book, his 2 books? Yeah, okay. No. He has said that if you don't understand it, you've just got a little more suffering to do, which is really quite a confronting statement. But he's written 2 books, which are called The Power of Now and The New Earth. Quite a straightforward shooting sort of guy, an academic from Cambridge, and had a really interesting life experience, and has done a beautiful synthesis of the wisdom traditions. Yeah, and I cannot recommend this writer more. I said 2 books, The Power of Now and The New Earth, but this beautiful comment from him. In today's rush, we all think too much, we seek too much, we want too much, and we forget about the joy of just being. So being in the moment, being still. This is Tolle, but this idea of being completely present for our people. Yep, we look at effective leaders, and they are present in the moment. And before, and I'm going to my classes. Sorry, Angela, when you spoke about the listening, yep, we're talking about active empathetic listening. We will say that is the greatest skill that Homo sapien can practice. Active empathetic listening, they say, is the greatest act of respect you can show another human being. But we're not real good at it. Has anyone got any feedback they can improve their listening skills? Has anyone ever got that feedback? The reason why, your heart's in the right place, but you go, sorry, I was absent. I was not present. I was living in the future or the past. And Tolle and Buddha will talk about pathways of suffering, and they are purely your imagination and your memory. If we were able to live in the present moment, then Tolle will ask the question, do you have a problem in this moment? Jed, do you have a problem right now in this very moment? Is there a problem right now, this second?
No, not really.
Tolle will go, then you'll never have a problem because the present is perfect and it's all we have. The only thing that takes you out of this present moment is your imagination or your memory, and they are your pathways of suffering. And the imagination, unfortunately, is full of fear and insecurity, and we talked about that. It shoots off the fight and flight, okay? It's triggered all the time, and we catastrophize. I'm not a psychologist, but you know that is what the mind does. We catastrophize about the future. We spend a lot of energy and time doing that. Or we are full of remorse, regret, shame about the past, and we sit in that. Yep, and we were never present. So what we're talking about here today is this ability, and I think is an effective workplace relationship, the ability just to pay someone the courtesy of being present to them as they speak and as we communicate, just at the most basic level. Yep. Here is the other, academic guru, Kabat-Zinn. Does anyone know this author? He is a wonderful human being. Okay, he's coming out of New York. He did a lot of work with post-traumatic stress with Iraqi and Afghani soldiers, and he introduced mindfulness practice, the ability to observe your thinking, and meditation practices. Okay, so he introduced them to war vets, and the results were phenomenal. Okay, he put it mainstream. So he'd been to Kathmandu and done all of that back in the 70s with a lot of other guys, Ram Dass and the whole heap of people that went and did interesting stuff in Tibet. But he came back as a medical doctor. He's a medically trained doctor, but he saw the possibility that the practice of mindfulness, and that is his definition, but he's paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the voice inside your head, to the story. To continue, there is a story in your head that's going 24/7. Mindfulness is the ability to float above that, if you like, to actually watch the script. Okay, watch the voice in your head chatter. Okay, non-judgmentally. Kabat-Zinn was able to work with these very damaged soldiers, and they got amazing results through the ability to not judgmentally observe the thinking, the voice in their head, and to practice a basic meditation technique. So he has gone on from that, and he's written some beautiful books since then, but Mindfulness for Beginners and a number of other things. I just ask you, 2 authors for the rest of your life, Tolle and Kabat-Zinn, you can't go wrong, okay? And I always throw in that line, leaders are readers and readers become leaders. And this is why this journey, we need to know who these authors are, okay? So 2 big ones to start off with. Again, Alicia spoke about Greg McGowan today, this simplification, coming back to Tolle's idea of being present in the moment, involved an incredible amount of stillness, an incredible amount of internal peace. tranquility, calmness. These are not abstract nouns. They are experiential. They go beyond language. But to profoundly know internal peace is to profoundly know internal peace. And it is an experience that I want to have a crack at in a moment. But it is purely one technique is a basic meditation technique. Yep. We have to quieten our minds, okay? And there is certainly a lot of noise up there, a lot of distraction. I'm going to mention, I'll jump ahead, Daniel Goldman, who was, I said, the guru, you know, the guy that's popularized emotional intelligence in 95. He wrote a book in 1913 called Focus in Pursuit of Excellence. And it was... 2013.
You must be an old guy.
2013. I missed a century. In 2013, Goldman, I was thinking 1995, 2013, he wrote an incredible book called Focus in Pursuit of Excellence. And he was the academic who put digital distraction and digital disruption into the vocab. And he was saying what is happening in 2013, we are distracted and disrupted by screens, okay? And we need to simplify, we need to move to a place of inner silence. And again, that came back to that time management. He called it pizzled. You puzzled and pissed off, okay? Pizzled was his word. And that's what the Americans, it moved into the vernacular, I'm pizzled, okay? So that was interesting, that book about digital distraction and disruption. I've been challenged by millennials around that who said, I'm not distracted or disrupted, I'm connected. Woo, okay. But anyway, then he moved on in 2018, he wrote a book called Altered Traits. This is Daniel Goldman, who is still regarded as a godfather of emotional intelligence. Altered Traits is metacognition. If we continue to work on this model, as in we are aware of our triggers, the events, and then we change our story, and then we change our emotional response. So instead of going to anger, I stay at peace. This is, if I continually become transparent to my triggers in life, that's my pause button. I change my story and go, that is what it is. And I stay calm, still, tranquil, at peace. We are rewiring, this is this neuroplasticity, we are rewiring that brain to quickly default to a place of calm and peace. Okay, so this is wild. And Daniel Goldman wrote about this at length. It's just, his book was called Altered Traits because you actually burn new neuro pathways, but he published it in Australia it's just called The Science of Meditation. That's what it's called in Australia, yeah? Because it's a bit weird, Altered Traits. It is a must read, but the science and data is there about the physiological, not just the psychological, mental or spiritual value of meditation, but the physiological. And they've done all this electric MRIs on all the Tibetan lamas, and they are different beasts. They are Homo sapien, but not as we know it. They are rewired in a way because of their lifelong commitment to actual meditation, and their brains are configured differently. And so it's quite fascinating that this is possible for us in Perth, Australia, if we are to practice. So anyway, so Goldman's quite interesting. I had an opportunity to talk to him one day, and I said, I know what you're doing. I said, you're trying to develop Homo Illuminatus, which is some sort of enlightened, secular enlightened person, which is a great leader, a leader with emotional. They are enlightened in a secular way, high self-awareness, high awareness of others. They're the package, and they move like a Buddha in lay terms. Okay, so and he winked. He winked and said to me, he goes, "You got it." And that's when he said, "You got to read my next book," and that was the meditation book. Did he sell you one? He didn't. Very cool guy. Very cool guy. He's a real McCoy. He's very laid back. He talked at the Perth Convention Centre a couple of years ago. So what we want to do is, again, when we talk about meditation, you do it. You don't talk about it. Okay, so that's simple as that. So I want to dive into that. But I put up the same model there because this is still operating big time. Okay, this is just the profoundness of this model is incredible. One, all events are neutral, but we put them through the filter of our life, and that is our story, yeah? And that story generates your emotion, generates your behavior. Mindfulness sits right here. Mindfulness sits right there. Has anyone heard of Viktor Frankl?
Yes.
What? Yep. Will someone tell me his story?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. Yep.
He was a someone else talking. He was a
I'll bring it up. Okay. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Yep.
He was a prisoner in a camp during, what do you call those?
Auschwitz death camp.
Yeah, death camp during the war, and he was able to somehow come out of it. Or
He spent that's exactly right. He spent 5 years in Auschwitz and Birkenau, and he said no matter what atrocities the Nazis threw at him, they could never get to his story. Now, this was the event of a death camp, but he goes, they could never get to my story. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is all my growth and opportunity. And both people like Kabat-Zinn and Goldman will quote him again and again. This started back in, he published a book in 46, as soon as he came out of death camp. He goes, the Nazis could never get to my story, could never get to my emotion. The story was one of optimism and future. Very powerful book, 200 pages. So what I just want to try now is just a brief experience in both mindfulness and meditation. Yep, they're the same, it's two sides of the coin. Yep, so mindfulness is the ability to observe your thinking, the ability to observe your story, non-judgmentally. Just acknowledge it, accept it, and let it go. This voice in your head is going 24/7. Actually, when you're conscious and when you are asleep, it manifests as dreams. You are not your voice. You are bigger than the voice in your head. It's part of your mind, but it's not everything. But we get it confused and you think your reality is just your voice. Your voice is not your friend. It's closely linked to your ego, okay? And your ego is a very insecure, fearful little bugger that sits inside you, that defines you, but it ain't helpful. And what we need to do is look at that voice, acknowledge it, accept it, let it go, because it's going to, otherwise going to influence emotions and behavior that you are not even aware of, okay? You will challenge it, and sometimes you'll change that story. But eventually you'll quieten that voice. And you are, as you said, completely present in the moment. Yeah. So I just want to have a look at that. We're okay to just do a brief guided meditation around this. It will touch on both mindfulness. You have the ability to observe your thinking, and you'll also be very present. Is that fair enough? All this meditation is breath counting. That's the main thing. Okay. So you're breathing between 12 and 20 times a minute. But that's your limbic system, okay? It's part of your reptilian brain. It was developed millions of years ago before we were fully Homo sapien. But imagine if I said to you, have you got a moment? You go, no, I'm too busy breathing. In, out, in, out. Imagine if you had to consciously breathe. So we do that unconsciously, and you've been doing that very well your whole life, I'm sure. One day you will exhale and not inhale, and you'll find that interesting. Okay, but you've been doing that very, very well, okay? But now, just while we meditate, you come in on breath. And you're doing something you do all the time, 12 to 20 times a minute, that's all. But you are there just for a couple of minutes. And you cannot but be present. If you are breath counting, your imagination and your memory will go quiet. The voice in your head shuts up. So this is why it needs to become a habit, yeah? 5 minutes a day, don't care. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, wonderful, yeah? We could just try that now. We just try it. So I'm going to ask you to get comfy. The first thing we're going to do is a little bit out of Eckhart Tolle. We're just going to do a body scan. So Tolle will say, always come into your body. Be present. Be here now. Be totally aware of your body. And then we'll move in to have a quick look at the voice in your head. And then we'll get out of there. Is that fair enough? Top afternoon, isn't it? And then we've got bevs. Okay, that's got to be a fair afternoon, doesn't it? Sounding close to perfection. Okay. So let's have a look. And I'll quote the experts here. Let's get comfortable. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. Main thing about when you meditate, keep a straight back. So not like a broom up there, but just sort of nice and not stiff like a soldier, but just a nice straight back. Okay. Roll your shoulders back so they're nice and relaxed. Allow your arms to rest loosely by your side. Sometimes we just recommend you cup them like seashells. Yep. Maybe right on top of left thumbs together. That is a beautiful, relaxed feel when you what to do with your hands. We're going to recommend you close your eyes. That's simply to reduce distraction or light stimulus, but you can meditate easily with your eyes open and just fix on a certain point, yeah? But probably here, if you wouldn't mind, if you see how you go. I want you to feel the muscles in your face relax. Okay, but it's just close your eyes, not too tightly, just relaxed and shut. Okay, now I just want to take you a little bit of Tolle here. Feeling good? Okay. Now I want you to direct your attention into your body. Feel it from within. Is it alive? Is there life in your hands, your arms, your legs and feet? in your abdomen, your chest. Feel it. And you feel the subtle energy field that pervades the entire body and gives vibrant life to every organ and every cell. And you feel it simultaneously in all parts of the body as a single field of energy. Keep focusing on the feeling of your inner body for a few moments. Do not start to think about it, just feel it. The more attention you give it, the clearer and stronger this feeling will become. It will feel as if every cell in your being is more alive. And if you have a strong visual sense, you may get an image of your body becoming luminous. But just continue to pay attention to this feeling. Now focus on the tip of your nostrils. Focus on the breath as you inhale and exhale. Don't worry about the breath going into the body. Just focus on the tip of your nostrils. Now on the next exhalation, count the number 1. And on subsequent exhalations, count the numbers 2, 3, and 4. Count your breaths in cycles of 4, keeping your focus on the sensation at the tip of your nostrils. Now, thoughts are part of this meditation. Try not to engage with thoughts as they arise. See a thought merely as a thought and acknowledge it, accept it, and let it go. Acknowledge, accept, and let go of each thought. See if you can abide in the space between thoughts. There is peacefulness and stillness here. Perhaps see the thought as a cloud passing on a blue sky. It's transient and fleeting. Acknowledge it, accept it, let it go. Come back to your breathing cycle and your breath counting. If your mind wanders, lovingly bring it back to your breath. You have just 1 minute to go. Make this minute the best of all by focusing purely on your breath. When you're ready, feel free to. Nice. Any chatter? It's inevitable. It will. We call it the monkey mind. The Buddhists call it monkey mind. Yep, jumping, future, past.
Future, what to cook for dinner?
Yeah, of course. Will you? How do we go there? Do we observe the wandering mind? It is what it is, and that is more reason to continue doing this. That mind wanders, but with discipline. It's like going to the gym. Practicing mindfulness is coming into the present moment hundreds and hundreds of times a day. The more you do this, you can come in, you can stay in a state for a long time, continually watching that movie. They say, why the Buddha last? Because he saw the illusion of suffering, this imagination. You know, pain is inevitable. Sickness, old age, and death will die. We've all got something in common there. But suffering is an optional extra. What you know now, it's an absolute optional extra, whether you suffer, because if you allow yourself to leave the present moment and go into the future or the past through your imagination or your memory, good luck to you. But what Buddhism talked about and what secular psychology talks about now, cognitive behavioural therapy and this, is that, yeah, that you will suffer. Those stories are not working for you, you know what I mean? And look at it, you go, that backdrop in your life of unease or anxiety or panic, they are the stories you're telling yourself, okay? And it's as simple as that. And this is where it gets sci-fi. When the event becomes just that, a memory or your imagination, that. Something in real time, you come close, the car pulls out, you stop. And, I tell myself a story about the idiot driver and I go to anger. That's fine. But could you see how often you trigger yourself an uncontrolled memory or imagination? That's 2 a.m. That's where you wake up. And your mind does not differentiate between what is real and imagined. And what you do is you go to a stress response. That fight, flight, or freeze is here. And you will go to a high response here. Your memory or your imagination at 2 a.m. triggers you and your body goes, it's fight or flight. And I start pumping adrenaline, cortisol. My heart rate goes from 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. It's 2 a.m. And now we're back to that sleep deprived. We were talking about that. I'm not getting 8 hours. Once you're pumping adrenaline and cortisol at 2 a.m., you ain't going back to bed for a couple of hours. Your bloodstream will not clear that stress hormone for at least 25 minutes if it's not triggered again. But if you continue to go over the same old, it's called useless rumination. Useless rumination. I asked you to think about that. Did you find that okay? Dan Harris I asked you to Google these people. Dan Harris writes beautifully about this. He wrote a book called 10% Happier. He's a high-profile media news anchor in the US. He had a panic attack on air. He's a bit like that Carl Stefanovic. He writes the most magnificent book about how he had a complete seizure on TV, if you Google it, and then he went in search of a remedy to it. He looked at all the wisdom traditions and he set it on mindfulness and meditation. And it's quite a fantastic book. Well, there's another guy who operates out of here in Perth. His name is David Mickey, and I can't recommend enough his free downloads. He has 6 guided meditations. You can never get tired of them. If you need this quick, I know people are going to talk about Headspace and things like that. There's another thing called Insight Timer that's free. There's a lot of great material out here, but the guided meditations are, I've listened to him for years, so you never, ever, ever get tired. It's just a 10-minute breathing technique, which, again, you won't need it eventually. You just do it yourself, wherever you are, set of lights, walking in the park, mindfully being present in the moment. Yeah.
Can I add one?
Yeah.
Professor David Hawkins, Letting Go.
David Hawkins,
Yeah.
Letting Go.
While letting go.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll write that one up. So I'm mindful of the time and the wine
And
breathing.
then noise of champagne.
Yeah. Sorry, that was David Hawkins. Yeah, the red is breathing and the white is chilling and the corks are popping. And we are chillaxed, I hope. Letting go.
Wine show.
There's so much great literature here. And as I said, we do train across this space. Push that pause button in your life. They all talk about it. Find it, find it, find it. But what we have here, programs Mindfulness at Work, which leads into the whole topic today about avoiding burnout, about managing stress, about being resilient. We have programs called Managing Stress and Building Resistance, and again, developing your emotional intelligence. As I said before, one of the subset competencies is stress management. Any questions? 30 minutes on mindfulness. That should keep you busy for the rest of your life. Any questions on that one? Yep.
You guys sending out the PowerPoint stores today?
Yes.
Yes.
You put the price tags on for the products and
All
services.
links, yeah, and that should be resilience, not resistance.
Good one. Good one. Good one.
So all of you in your bag will have received one of the training schedule programs, and you've got the IT in green, and then if you open it up, you've got all the training here, and it's broken into, so we have a whole wellness area, wellbeing training, and all the other courses there. But all the slides will be sent, and all the recordings will be sent. You'll get a lot of feedback, and you'll also receive a report from the interviewer. And so that draws us to a close in this room. I wanted to say thank you very much to Phil. You've done a sterling job with the last 3 sessions.